Okay, moving on to the first segment of today's show. There was a story that dropped in college basketball throughout the past week that I wanted to talk about. And by now, I'm sure you have heard it, but if you have not, Jalen Johnson, a top 10 recruit this past season at Duke, has announced that he has decided to quote unquote opt out of the college basketball season. And this news came out on Monday. So there have been a lot of people who have been out here asking me, Zach, what is your take on Jalen Johnson? Did he quit? Did he opt out? Do you think it's the right decision? Do you think he should have had the right to make this decision to begin with? And the news obviously came out last Monday, so it's been a while, but I wanted to talk about my opinion on Jalen Johnson and this whole situation. And I wanted to start off by saying this. I have no problem that he decided to do whatever he thought was the best thing for his career. And Jalen Johnson is probably going to make a lot of money in the NBA one day. He was a very highly touted prospect coming to Duke for a reason. And he believed that instead of just being at college and quote unquote risking injury, I don't want to say quote unquote because technically he would be risking injury, but you guys know what I mean. It's not something every other college prospect really does. And I have no problem with him deciding to do whatever he thinks is best for his career. All I will say is just the timing is really, really bad. The timing makes me think that Jalen Johnson really did quit on Duke. And I'm not saying that makes him a bad person. I'm not saying that he shouldn't be allowed to do that. But the one problem I really have overall with this issue is that people are saying he opted out, treating it like he isn't playing because of health concerns, or saying like he isn't playing because of injury concerns. Guys, that's not what happened at all here. Jalen Johnson left Duke because he didn't really mesh with Coach K. He didn't really feel like his talents were really benefiting the overall program. And when you're a player like Jalen Johnson, who has such a big future in front of him, and you have a lot of things to look forward to, I kind of understand why Jalen Johnson wanted to leave, because let's face facts, right? You are a top 10 recruit entering Duke. A lot of top 10 recruits that have been in his position before have done big time things in the NBA. And the NBA has a lot to do with this conversation, because ultimately that's the main reason why I think Jalen Johnson left Duke, because he wanted to go out here and prepare for the NBA draft. But at the same time, I think Jalen Johnson had to realize what doing this may cause on his perception with the professional scouts and stuff like that. Because I totally understand that Jalen Johnson and Mike Krzyzewski both made statements prior to Johnson leaving, how they were both supportive of each other during the process. And Mike Krzyzewski was obviously very, very okay with Jalen Johnson's decision. He said in the Duke statement that he approved it. But I do bet deep down he's thinking to himself, I mean, guys, what are we doing here? It is March. We are 3 weeks away from the start of the NCAA tournament, and this kid is out here just quitting my team. Does every player have the right to just quit the team if they're not getting playing time? Technically, yes, I get it, but I do think there's a reason why that is never the case. There is never a case where we are just out here seeing players quit on certain teams, but that's one thing I will say. I support Jalen Johnson and his right to do whatever he thinks is the best path for his career. I just don't think when you're trying to get to the NBA and when you're trying to show to scouts and people in the NBA how committed you are and how dedicated you are and how good of a player you're going to be in the league, I don't necessarily think that doing this was the best reflection and the best decision that Jalen Johnson could have made. Here's the other thing. There was a report that dropped shortly after the announcement with Jalen Johnson came out that Jalen and his quote-unquote camp were not getting along with Mike Krzyzewski and they were having problems. That is another problem with this whole situation. These are college kids just out of high school. Jalen Johnson is 18 years old. He's a freshman in college, just got out of high school. How does he have his own camp? I understand that you have once in a generation type players like LeBron James and Zion Williamson who generate all this hype and all that good stuff. But at the same time, I mean, guys, I feel like the agents and the money aspect of basketball could be ruining college basketball. And this has been a conversation that has been spoken about for a while. But I do think that there is a chance that the pattern of players having nothing to play for in big time games like college football and they just opt out before their season is over. I do think that there may be a slight chance that we see that with the Markel Fultz type or the Ben Simmons type in college basketball, just like we did with Jalen Johnson, except Jalen Johnson did it for a coach like Coach K opposed to LSU or Washington, like the other two guys that I had mentioned. So once again, I have no problem with Jalen Johnson's decision to leave the Duke basketball team. He has every right to do that. But at the same time, I don't want to hear this talk about, oh, he opted out because it's a pandemic, or he opted out because he's transferring schools. No, he opted out because he was only getting 8 minutes a game playing under Coach K. And it's not like those 8 minutes were making Duke a better basketball team anyway. He did have a stretch about midway through the season where he had that sick dunk against Clemson and he was playing pretty well. But at the same time, you could just tell the more and more you watch Duke that they were better without him. And really, the whole time that this situation's been going on, I didn't necessarily expect Jalen Johnson to leave, but I kind of did connect the dots after the announcement was made, and I realized, wow, this guy really did only play 8 minutes against NC State, and not to mention, that was Duke's best game they played all season. They led that game from start to finish against NC State, and really since that game, we've seen a different Duke team. Against Virginia, I watched a lot of that game. That was the best game from start to finish Duke has really played all season, besides NC State. Obviously, they blew them out. But it was cool to see Duke go up there against a quality opponent like Virginia and really look like they've belonged. And this weekend, that was a common theme with a lot of these Blue Bloods, was just seeing teams go out there and perform when all season in the beginning we expected them to. However, throughout the portion of the season, they hadn't been really able to get the job done, and Duke was right in that mix. And a big reason why could be Jalen Johnson and the fact that he is no longer here, and the fact that Duke may just be a better team without him. Matthew Hurt is playing like an all ACC type player. 22 points on 8 of 13 from the field against Virginia the other day, and he is looking like a best player on a Duke team should. How about my guy, Jamin Brakefield, a guy who a lot of Duke fans have been very questioned and puzzled why he hasn't necessarily been getting any minutes, and a lot of Duke fans do believe that he was on the road of maybe transferring after this season because he is a former top recruit that hasn't necessarily gotten all the playing time. Well, I like how, unlike Jalen Johnson, he stayed at Duke and had 11 big points and 5 big rebounds against Virginia. Duke does have a chance to make the NCAA tournament, and they're obviously going to have to win the ACC tournament most likely in order to do that. But their next 4 games are home against Syracuse tonight, actually, and then they will have home Louisville on Saturday, and then they'll close the season with 2 road games at Georgia Tech and at North Carolina. The way this Duke team is playing, with Matthew Hurt as their top dog, leading scorer, Jordan Goldwire is a veteran guard who has been through the battles, he's been through the wars, he provides some nice veteran insight for this Duke team, and also the development of Mark Williams. He only played 7 minutes the other night, but as time's been going on, he's been getting a little more playing time. He was phenomenal against NC State, having 27 points, 27 minutes, 13 points, 2 rebounds, and there is a chance that Duke could be playing their best basketball of the season at just the right time. Their last 3 games since Jalen Johnson has left, before they beat NC State, and then they go to Wake Forest and win on Wednesday night, and it wasn't even close. They win that one by a final score of 84-60. And then against Virginia, a team that is going to be a 2 or 3 seed in the NCAA tournament, Duke goes out there and beats them at home. That is a quality win for Duke, and we'll see what happens because I do believe it was shown this past weekend that Duke is a better basketball team without Jalen Johnson. And it really also just shows you how, as much hype as a lot of these freshmen are getting around college basketball, it is that veteran experience and that veteran leadership that will still ultimately be the main reason why your team is successful in college basketball. And I think with Duke, for the first time all season, with a younger team, we are finally starting to see that chemistry develop. We are finally starting to see these guys play together and look like a real basketball team. And the ACC is wide open. I do give Duke a legitimate shot to win the ACC tournament because of their talent, because of their coach. And oh, yeah, just look at some of the other teams in the ACC. Is Virginia a very good basketball team? Yes, but they are beatable on any given night. Right now, Florida State does look like the best team in the ACC. I totally understand that, but they lost to UCF earlier this season at home, a bad UCF team. They've had their poor nights. We just saw Louisville get blown out by North Carolina. UNC has been playing well, but they were struggling early in the season. So I think the ACC is a league that is going to have about 5 or 6 NCAA tournament teams, but it is also a league that is very wide open, and the second or third best team in the ACC isn't that much different from the fifth or sixth, which in this case may be Duke. And without Jalen Johnson, they're playing some really good basketball. And once again, I give Jalen Johnson every right to exercise his ability to leave the Duke basketball team. But let's stop sitting here and pretending like he opted out because of the pandemic. No, he opted out because clearly him and Coach K weren't on the same page, and he had just had enough of it. And when you are a top 10 recruit only getting 10 minutes per game at Duke, I understand why you're going to want to leave, but he quit on his team. And for the people that was saying, oh, he's injured, he wants to rest his body and relax, okay, that's fine. Then he should have gotten and used the use of that Duke medical staff, how great they are. He should have done something with that instead of just being at home and resting and getting ready for the draft. So Jalen Johnson has the right to do whatever decision he wants. Whatever decision he thinks is the best for his future should be the one he should be making. But at the same time, personally, if you ask me, do I think that was the best decision for the path of his career? Honestly, my answer is no.